Hey everyone, Melanie Muenchinger here, illustrator from Gina K Designs. Today I have a project for you that several people requested I show today using the Zig Clean Color Real Brush Markers and my Stately Flowers 10 set. I posted this sample on my blog. Very simple watercoloring technique that you can do with these markers. Very minimal supplies for it as well. So here's the Stately Flowers 10 set. In addition to this set, you're going to need the Zig Clean Color markers, and you don't necessarily need the set of 60. They've got some smaller sets, but I wanted a good range, and I'll show you some color charts and a couple tips for when you get these markers. You're going to need some cardstock, so I've got the Gina K heavy base weight ivory cardstock, and then I've got just a piece of watercolor paper cut to 4 by 5¼ inches. So that's all the cardstock we're using. We're going to be using some dark chocolate Gina K embossing powder and a Versamark pad. I really like embossing when I'm doing watercoloring techniques just because it does give that nice dimension and shine on the card. I hope you can see that in the light, but it also gives you that texture and kind of a nice little bumper that helps keep the water in and out of certain areas, so it just makes it a little bit easier. You're going to need a heat gun for doing that embossing. I'm going to be using the coordinating Gina K dark chocolate ink pad for my greeting. I've got some acrylic blocks for that large dogwood, and then I've also got one that I'm going to be using. It's kind of like a little paint palette that I'm going to swipe some of those markers on just to dilute it a little bit before I start painting. I've also got my water brush, and then we're going to be using just some foam squares to attach that mat, and then I've got some adhesive pearls to bling it up a little bit. So to begin, the markers that I chose, these are some color charts that I downloaded from Jennifer McGuire Inc. The Zig Clean Color markers were new to me, so I wanted to get some tips for how to use them and really get myself organized. So she has these charts so that you can put a little swatch down. To the left, you're just going to do what the solid color is when you're just coloring with it, full strength. Then you put just a little dab of it to the side and then blend it out with a water brush or some water and just a watercolor brush so that you can see the different shades that you can get in that marker. That's really helpful. In addition to that, these markers, when you see them in the box, when you have them from the side, it's really hard without this colored circle on the top for me to tell which marker it is, and they do recommend that you store them on their sides. So she recommended that you put just a little colored circle of watercolor paper on the top of each one. I did mine a little bit differently. What I did is I just cut out all of my circles at one time with my Crop-A-Dile, and then I adhered them with just a little bit of glue to the top of the markers first. Then I just opened up the cap and then colored straight on and then watered it down. So that way I thought it was just a little bit easier than trying to color out a bunch of little circles and then cut them out and then worry that maybe I wasn't getting them on the top of that marker. So that just worked well for me. I have a couple that fell off, so we need to redo them. But anyway, the colors that I chose today, we're going to be working with the Cornflour blue, the Persian blue, the blue gray. We're going to be using the mid brown for that branch, and then we're going to be using the yellow green and the mid green. And then, wait, maybe the olive green too. Nope, just, yes, hang on. Mid green, light green, yellow green, okay. And then the other 4 colors that I mentioned, the blues, the gray, and the brown. So each of these have a number and a color on the side, but it's really easy to tell. So you really want to know, because if I just had the full strength color, sometimes it fades to a little bit different color than you would anticipate. So I really want to see both, and that really helped me pick out what I wanted to use here. Okay, so to begin, we want to emboss our image onto our card. So we set this aside. I've already got my dogwood blossom on the block. And you could do this in any corner that you want to vary up the layout. This one in particular, I put in the top right corner, and I actually embossed this one with ivory embossing powder, so it's a little bit more subtle. This one's going to pop a little bit more and obviously show that detail more. So to get the white flowers to stand out from the background, you really have to do that outline of the blue. And you can make this a little bit more dark or more subtle if you want. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to ink up the dogwood. And I know that looks like it's red, but it just has some staining on it. And then I'm going to pour on my powder, but I'm going to put a sheet of paper under it just to help catch it. So I'm just going to put this right here in this corner. I know you can't see that, but then all this powder is going to stick. And I made sure I turned my ceiling fan off so it wouldn't blow everywhere. And this is a really fine powder. It's really nice for detail work. So just going to tap, tap, tap. Funnel this back in. And I have just a few little flecks here. You can use tweezers, or you could use a little brush, like a dry brush, a little makeup brush. That was a really good tip someone left me the other day. Just gonna blow on this just a hair. And then I'm gonna use my heat gun. So you wanna keep it a few inches back. You're gonna move it around. The paper's going to curl up a little bit, but then you can turn it over and hit it from the back. And you're going to start to see that powder melt and become very shiny. So you want to make sure the entire image is melted. And I just tip it in the light so I can make sure I got every section. And then I'm going to add my greeting. So I think I'm going to do blessings on this one. This is also from the set. You could even add the little happy blessings to it if you want. Normally I use a smaller block, but since this is the only one that I have out right now. Okay, happy blessings. All right, so let's do our coloring. So I've got my block here. This is going to act as my palette. Get my markers, and I'm going to start doing the inside of this flower. So you can color with these directly on. The really cool thing about these brushes at this, they truly are a brush. So the tip of this is just like the end of, it's just like a hair. It's that thin, but you can actually separate these out. So it's not a nib like other brush markers. So I'm just gonna brush this into the center, and then I'm gonna pull just a tiny bit of this out. So these are gonna represent those dogwoods that just have a tiny bit of a kind of a spring green on the petals, and the rest are white. No pink on this one. And then we can go just a little bit onto those leaves. Okay. Then I'm going to add just some touches of green to a few of those little centers. Okay. And I'm going to brush just a little bit of this light green, and then also the olive onto my block. You make sure this starts out clean, and you might also want to have just a little piece of paper next to it to blot, but I do like when they blend together. So I'm going to pick up this green and this olive and brush that onto the leaves. And then I want to go back and I want to use this darkest green, and I'm going to go directly onto the leaf there. So you can go back and add in. Now what I want to do, to get some of that green off, kind of get this where it's going clean. Then I'm going to put some of these blues onto my block. Make sure you can see this. And you don't have to use this many markers, but just having a variety of shades is going to make a really pretty background. So I want to go around this with my water brush to kind of wet the outside. You just want to do it in small sections because it's going to dry up, but this is going to help this blue blend around. Okay, and then just pull it out, and you can make it more or less subtle. If you have too much water, you might want to have like a little water rag or something to blot with, but you can just keep moving the water. And you can get a similar effect just on the regular Gina K Designs cardstock, but watercolor paper is really where you're going to get that really kind of blended, muted, watery look, because the paper absorbs it differently. So I want to get some different shades on here. Now then you can go back on, and what I kind of wanted this to look like is like part of a cloudy background. So you could even put some over here in the corners to suggest that there's clouds in the rest of your card. So let me pull this out a little bit more. You have to take some risks. If you want it to be just more clean and simple, you can do that, but it's a lot more rewarding to kind of try to go bold. Okay, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to brush on just a little more color so I can have a little bit more contrast around these petals. And then blend that so it doesn't have a hard edge. And then you repeat that with the other colors. So I'm going to do some of this darker. Isn't that pretty? So this is the Persian blue. But it's done whenever you think it's done, and I really think it makes a huge difference to have some of those different shades on there rather than just one blue. And I wish I had done that gridding last after I did the watercolor, because it did bleed a little bit. That's what I did on the original card, and I just got ahead of myself. Then I'm going to put just a little bit of brown as my final touch onto that branch. It already has a lot of brown detail on there. It has a nice texture, kind of like a branch would. And then you can brush it directly on. And if you want to do any blending here of those centers, you can do that. Okay, so really simple. Then I'm just going to add some dimensionals to mount it on the back of my card base, or front of my card base, excuse me. And I like the kind of warping, just the texture that that gives with the wet watercolor paper, but you could flatten this with a book or hit it with the heat gun to kind of flatten out some of those areas, but the dimensionals will hold it in place. And then finally you're going to add your pearls. And again, don't try to make it perfect. I mean, that's really the beauty of watercolor. So I'm going to use a couple different sizes here of the pearls. Just to bling it up a little bit. I like to use odd numbers. Hang on, these aren't coming off the sheet for me very well today. Okay, so one here. You could also, when it dries, use some of the liquid pearls that I used the other day on that Christmas card. I'm so excited about things that we've got coming up. New stamp set soon and a stamping event. You may have seen Gina post about it on Facebook, but a lot of really new fun stuff coming. And I'm going to be following up with some more videos showing some of those new clear sets that I shared a few weeks ago so that you can get some ideas for those, since I haven't done videos for a few of them in a while. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video with the Zig Clean Color markers and you see that you can use them directly on your cardstock or use them with a watercolor brush. Thank you for watching this video today. I hope you'll subscribe to my channel. Please visit us at Gina K Designs and Stamp TV for more ideas and inspiration using all of my stamps. Let me know which layout you prefer, if you like it in the lower corner or the top corner, so A or B. Thanks for watching today. God bless.